Andrew Tate appeared on a 5-hour-long Patrick Bet-David podcast episode recently. Patrick Bet-David is a Christian, Andrew Tate is now a Muslim, and I was interested to hear what he had to say about Christianity and the Bible. So in this video, I'm going to react to about 10 of the things he said and give you a biblical way to think about this. Now, firstly, Andrew Tate said something which Patrick Bet-David agreed with, and I'm in pretty much agreement with in many ways as well. But there's a big problem with it that Andrew himself admits later on in the interview, but I'll bring this up when we get there. But for now, let's hear a problem Andrew Tate had with Christianity.
Quotes from you. Christians don't have a religion anymore because they tolerate everything and stand for nothing. By the way, I actually agree with you, the fact that they're tolerating way too much.
Like I said, we are all in agreement for the most part, because there are so many Christians who stay quiet, live in fear, and just accept everything that is happening around them without batting an eyelid. But this is why Jesus said, among other things, "He that denies me before men, he will deny them before his Father in heaven." Jesus stood for marriage, for justice, love, devotion, and a whole slew of things which are relevant today. And in like manner, when we see these things happening, we are supposed to be like Jesus and stand on the truth, no matter what the cost, because everything we might be afraid of losing, Christ has already sacrificed for you and me to empower us to do the same. That's why the gospel of Jesus is so powerful. And the fact is, anyone who claims to be a Christian but tolerates things Jesus was against is not a genuine Christian or is simply misinformed. And Andrew Tate knows this. He knows they're not genuine Christians because I'll show you, but he says this a few minutes later in the interview. And this is where being consistent must come into play. Listen to what he has to say, and I'll show you why this causes a problem.
How do you judge the success of a religion? I don't think you can judge it by the number of people who join it, because there's lots of people who are Catholic who don't act Catholic. They don't act in any way particularly Christian. Anyone can say they're something. You can walk into a strip club and everyone says they're Christian. It doesn't mean anything, right?
You cannot critique Christianity for allowing anything and everything, but then acknowledge that many people say they are something, but really are not. That's contradictory and doesn't hold up to scrutiny. Because whenever you speak about religion, a famous saying comes to mind. You judge the people by the book, not the book by the people. And if you think about this, and if you think about his question about how do you judge the success of a religion, the only thing that's not subjective is truth. Not how big it is or how well it seems to be doing. Objectively speaking, what worldview is true based on all the available evidence available to us. Not what seems to be the strictest, because that would go against the very thing Andrew Tate claims to be fighting against, the matrix system, which is against truth and tries to suppress it at all costs. Christianity doesn't say, "I'm true, so everything fighting against it must be silenced." Christianity says, "I'm true, and anything you put against it will fail because it's false." Christianity will let you put your best foot forward, let you lie against it, team against it, and it's still so true, it will always prevail. And this is why Christianity will be the last religion standing. But Andrew Tate seems to believe otherwise by what he said in this next clip.
So when I say Islam is the last religion on earth, I say it because it seems to be the only one who will stand up and say, no, we don't care. No, that's not what the book says. No.
There are many people from various walks of life who have this approach. And this goes back to what Andrew Tate said earlier. Remember?
Anyone can say they're something. You can walk into a strip club and everyone says they're Christian. It doesn't mean anything, right?
Any important question you have about life or ethics or morals, you can find books, talks, and videos from Christians exposing the false systems and speaking the truth. But the Bible is full of examples of a godly nation being run by a king who is hell-bent on leading the people in wickedness. The book of Kings in the Bible, for example, prepares us for times like this. It's why I wish more Christians would read more of the Bible, because these times and seasons wouldn't be such a surprise. But what Andrew Tate says next is a mistake so many people get wrong about Christianity. But at the same time, it's something that we actually need to think about as Christians.
I just don't like the idea of people saying they're a Christian and saying, but because I'm a Christian, I can do whatever I want and throw all the rules away and none of it matters. Because once you have that level of tolerance, you no longer have a religion.
And one thing he says, which is true, is that without rules or structure, you don't have religion anymore. And the book of Judges in the Bible is a great example of this in many ways. A book summarized by the phrase, "There was no king in Israel, and everyone did what was right in their own eyes." But Christianity is the furthest thing from forget the rules, live how you want. Anytime you see somebody in the name of Christianity saying rules don't matter or you can live how you want, you know they're lying or largely deceived, because the Bible deals with this repeatedly One of my favorite examples is Romans chapter 6, verse 1 to 2, which says, "What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? God forbid. Should a Christian continue to live life without rules and sin?" The Bible emphatically says, God forbid. Because once you are a Christian, by the power of the Holy Spirit, you will avoid sin. And this leads to Andrew Tate's next question.
Does anybody fear the Christian God?
Because Christians won't physically attack you for mocking God. People feel comfortable enough to mock the God of the Bible, but all that will stop when God returns, and they won't have any excuses then. God let them mock him. He didn't command they be killed for mocking him. And because I'm saying God will judge when he returns, gives Andrew Tate the confidence to say things like what he said here.
The Christians don't protest against any of this stuff. There's very few Christians who will get up off their ass and complain. In fact, I saw on Twitter yesterday, one of the churches was lit up in rainbow.
Think about a church being lit up like a rainbow. Think about what Andrew Tate said earlier, which I'm playing for the third time now.
Anyone can say there's something. You can walk into a strip club and everyone says they're Christian. Doesn't mean anything, right?
And then realize the Bible in no way endorses any of this alphabet confusion. And then realize these people are either deceived or deceivers. And now we move to children and how we best protect our children. Andrew Tate acknowledges God is the answer. Then, unsurprising, as a Muslim says the God of Islam is the answer. And he mentions moving to a place like Arabia where this stuff will not be tolerated. He wonders where else and asks this question.
Can I trust a Christian nation?
He's currently living in Romania, which is extremely religious by his own admission, which proves there are places trying to genuinely live by biblical principles which will protect children. But what he says next isn't surprising.
To a large degree, they oppose quite a lot of this stuff, but they're also NATO, and they're also EU, and they also rely on bailouts and grants and money. And on a long enough time frame, even in the 7 years I've lived here, I have watched certain attitudes change because money buys influence and power.
And do you see a common theme here? He acknowledges there are genuine believers all over, even genuine Christian nations. But the reality is people are attracted to sin, and even the most devout can compromise for money, but by compromising for money, you would be showcasing that you are not doing the Christian thing, but the sinful thing, because Christ repeatedly warned against selling out God for money. And now don't get it twisted. I don't like people mocking God, and Patrick Bet-David says the same here.
Part that upsets me is the fear aspect. They're allowing others to mock your God. You're kind of like, oh, they're just funny, man. No, it's not funny. You just crossed the line.
But our religion doesn't tell us to go and fight and kill people who mock our God. So we show self-control and follow scriptures like God saying vengeance is his. The God I believe in is powerful enough to defend himself. He doesn't need me or anyone else to stand up for him. This is why when Jesus was going to the cross, he said he could call thousands of angels to fight for him. And this shows you why what he did for the world was so powerful. And this is why the God of the Bible is so powerful. Because true power does not need to be used at every turn. God could take my life just like that, but he doesn't. And that is one of the reasons I serve him. But the last question I want to cover from Andrew Tate is something which shows he doesn't have a problem with Christianity.
I don't know what a Christian would answer to certain questions nowadays. What does a Christian answer to, I'm a transsexual and I want to show your kids my genitals? Christians supposed to say no, do they? If you're a Christian, I don't know how you're supposed to act. I don't know what you're supposed to adopt. I don't get it anymore.
The true believer says
The true
no.
believer. The true believer.
Yeah.
But how many are true believers? I don't know. I see all over Twitter, all these churches are losing their minds. It seems very complicated.
You see, he knows what a Christian would answer. Patrick Bet-David showed him what a Christian would answer. And you know what a Christian would answer to that question too. So Andrew Tate's real problem with Christianity is fake Christians, which really isn't a unique problem with Christianity. And since you watched this video today, watch my video where I react to Ben Shapiro's problem with Christianity.